Hey guys, welcome back to another one, and today I wanted to talk about a topic that's been on my mind for the past couple days, and that's Dead by Daylight's infamous toxic community. Before I get into anything, I just want to make it clear that this video isn't made to target anyone. It's more directed towards just the community as a whole, especially since I know we're all guilty of toxic behavior sometimes, and I feel like that's just video games as a whole, but for Dead by Daylight especially, I feel that the toxicity is most prevalent, especially now with all the new players coming in. And I've always wondered why this community is so incredibly toxic, and that's what I wanted to discuss in this video today. I also wanted to go over some solutions there could be to fix this problem, if present, and I just want to know your guys' thoughts and opinions on this, but either way, let's jump in. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is gameplay. Now, Dead by Daylight is an incredibly competitive game, and that's just how it is. People get extremely competitive over this game. However, there is one thing that I want to mention about this game. Although Dead by Daylight is a very competitive game, and it's a game people play competitively, at its core, Dead by Daylight is a party game. It's something I had seen in another YouTube video, and honestly, I totally agree with it. At its core, Dead by Daylight is a party game. Although it throws a lot of ranked competitive aspects at you, such as rank, like a hidden MMR system between your killers, I do think at its core, Dead by Daylight was always meant to be a party game. Now, when most people think party game, they think of Mario Kart, Mario Party, or they think of, Jackbox games. That's a pretty popular party game right now. But Dead by Daylight just simply isn't like this. In fact, if I were to compare Dead by Daylight to any game, it'd be Smash Bros. Smash Bros is one of those games where a bunch of people can just get together and fight each other and have fun, but Smash Bros is also a game people take incredibly competitively, and I get it, Dead by Daylight has like this whole rank and MMR thing, and Smash Bros doesn't, but I do think at its core, Dead by Daylight is a party game that's being treated like a competitive game, which is, for one thing, why people get so upset at it all the time. I think it's caused the community to be incredibly frustrated at the fact that there's like so many of these little imbalances, and I agree, when you play this game in a competitive way, it can get frustrating for there to be all these little imbalances inside of the game, and that's totally okay. That combined with the really, really bad MMR system create this environment that's just bound to spawn really, really toxic people. While granted, I don't think the core gameplay of Dead by Daylight should ever be changed. I think at its core, Dead by Daylight is already a really good game as it is, and shifting that and changing that would probably drive off a lot of its older players. I do think there should be a little bit of changes here and there to the rank system and the MMR. And, I know a lot of people would rather have a casual mode and a ranked mode, but honestly, I think that would just make this game feel more competitive than it already is. And since there's so many shifts and balances, I think that would turn it into a game like Overwatch, where people would just, the devs would start balancing everything. And honestly, if this game was completely and totally balanced like games like Overwatch and Marvel Rivals, I don't think it'd be nearly as fun, and I don't think we'd have all the fun stuff that we do now. But overall, I think the players just need a shift in perspective. Dead by Daylight, at its core, is a party game, and it's meant to be played for fun and not necessarily to be incredibly competitive. And while I know people do get incredibly competitive over it, I personally think that the game shouldn't be taken as seriously as it is, especially because of, all the little imbalances and its perks and all that. But, you let me know what you think. Let's take a deeper dive into the community perspective of Dead by Daylight. And, this is where most of the toxicity is born. Granted, while some of the toxicity is spawned from its gameplay, I do think that just a lot of very impatient people play Dead by Daylight, and that's, of course, no offense to anyone who plays the game. There's a lot of places where you can see this, people taking the game way too seriously. What sparked the idea for this video was me watching a streamer compilation of just streamers completely losing their mind over survivors, calling out cheaters. And this happens in every game, but in Dead by Daylight, it just feels a little more prevalent than every other game that I've played. Especially because it feels like every other game that I play, there's always someone talking down on me in game chat for winning, or when they win, they talk a lot of crap. They say that you got smoked, and they say that you got reported, and you know, these are things you can very easily ignore. But I do think Dead by Daylight as a game might be attracting a lot of the wrong people, or just a lot of people that can't handle losing. The main reason I think for that is just because this game is incredibly difficult for new players, and I don't think that that's the game's fault in any way. I think honestly it's a little bit our fault. Now I know they could improve the MMR system, but at the same time, the same people who are telling us that we should improve the really crappy MMR system are the same people that see a baby killer and start flashlight clicking them and teabagging them. Let me give you a perspective. Imagine being a baby killer, right? And since this game's MMR is really bad, you go up against a 4-stack Swift, and you know, you get dogged on, you get teabagged on, and then you get absolutely shit talked in game chat. You know, it happens. But you know, a lot of people tend to carry those toxic traits with them. Like when someone has a really bad first 3 games on, they'll go and they'll start hitting survivors on hooks, and then they'll start tunneling, and then they'll start talking crap in game chat on their own. Kind of just an endless cycle of people just, you know, spreading the toxicity around everywhere. And I think it's because people really, really like to spread their anger. And all I can say to that is, as a community, we need to be better towards these new survivors and these new killers. With the new Springtrap chapter, Dead by Daylight has actually surpassed Overwatch in player base, and that has brought in a ton of new people. And I think one of the things we can do to fix this is not only not play so sweaty every game, and in the gameplay footage in the background I assume that I am playing sweaty in some way, but not only not play sweaty, but also just, you know, maybe try out some new killers, like, or just do something you're not normally used to. I am a Ghostface main. I play a lot of Ghostface. I love Ghostface. He's like my favorite killer. But the people that I go up against, usually, that I win to, I acknowledge that they are usually on my same skill set, especially when I look at the prestiges. But when I notice that sometimes I get queued with like a baby survivor or like a baby Bill, like just someone that I can tell by the way they play, as I play the game a lot, sometimes I give them hatch. And I won't say I do it all the time, of course, and I'm not telling you need to hand out free wins. You don't need to hand out free wins. But just every once in a while, you know, be a little nice, you know, give them hatch. Give them something. You don't have to give them hatch every match. I don't give hatch every match. I like getting my 4K. I like my blood points. But you also don't need to sweat so hard every match. And I know I'm using a sweaty gen build. Yes, I like winning. And for another thing, yes, it's Ghostface. He's not exactly the strongest person in the world. But that's why I find playing him so fun, is because he's not strong. So when you win, you feel really good. Or let's say I can kind of tell that they got queued with a lot of very crappy teammates, you know. Their teammates kind of screwed them over and they're a really good looper. I'll give them hatch sometimes for that, just because I feel bad. I get that pain. And while most of my hours are on killer, I have a decent, I think, like 200 hours on survivor. I can understand the pain that comes from getting queued with really bad teammates, so sometimes I'll let them go. You don't have to let them go all the time, but it's a nice little gesture, and these nice little gestures go a long way. Just like toxicity spreads itself in games, I think little kind acts spread themselves. And I think as a community, we should treat these baby killers just a little nicer. And honestly, just the community as a whole. Overall, do I think the core gameplay needs changing? Of course not. Do I think the lower tier killers need buffs? Yeah, but that's a topic for another time. Either way, instead of yelling at the devs to fix their game, I think the DBD community should instead try to better itself for its newer players. Maybe don't use your sweatiest builds every game, and maybe just leave when you win. Or don't tunnel, don't hit on hook, don't teabag. And yes, survivors, I understand, teabagging is by no means a crime. It's not like you're not allowed to do it, but you know, people do get agitated very quickly, and while it is on them, you know, you also don't have to teabag. And I feel like most people are aware that teabagging is a toxic trait that people carry, and while I understand people like to teabag because it kind of gets the killer upset, or they're trying to get a reaction out of them maybe, or maybe they just do it instinctively. I don't know what the reason for teabagging is, but honestly, since I've started recently playing Survivor and got max rank, knowing the pain of being teabagged at gate, I never teabag at gate, and I never shine my flashlight at gate. I just leave. Even more reason not to teabag and to stay at gate to troll is perks like Blood Warden exist, so, you know, no point, you don't have to stay. In my opinion, it's not really the devs' fault. The game, as fun as it is bound to build a lot of toxic people, and it's bound to attract a lot of toxic people. And I think as a community, I think we just need to do better. Better at treating our killers right, and better at treating our survivors right. So the next time you're in a match, maybe just leave when you win. Don't tunnel, don't hit on hook, don't teabag. Maybe just take your L's and W's and move on.